Welcome to a new fragrance review. Today I'm going to tell you my top 5 fragrance that I love in cheap fragrances. So when you buy a cheap fragrance, there's two things. It's either going to be a really cheap, horrible synthetic mess, or it's going to be absolutely amazing. And there's really one absolute way to know which one it will be, and it's to try it on your skin. There's no other way. You can hear people talk about it, you can look the note breakdown. Really, the bottom line is when you try it. But for me, it seems that there are some notes that if I look at it at a cheap fragrance and I see one of these notes being a dominant note in the fragrance, I'm most likely gonna enjoy those fragrances. So here is my top 5 notes that will make me probably enjoy a cheap fragrance. Number 5 is Aquatic note. Even though I don't really enjoy aquatic fragrance, it seems that I enjoy it more and more. But fragrance with aquatic notes, I think the reason why if it has aquatic note I will enjoy it is mostly because fragrance with aquatic note have no other choice than to use the same ingredients than more expensive fragrance. And this is pretty much the same ingredient that aquatic notes. There's no like quality like aquatic essential oil that you can have. It's all synthetic anyway. So I think that's why an aquatic cheap fragrance would most likely be good because that's how it is. Just the same notes anyway, same ingredient, so it's gonna smell good. Now it depends on everything else. Usually when they make fragrance like this, that's aquatic. Also, it's not gonna be like super sweet and synthetic. Usually aquatic fragrance are pretty light and fresh, so it's something enjoyable. Doesn't mean I will love the fragrance, but I'm pretty sure I won't hate the fragrance. Number 4 is Tonka Bean. And Tonka Bean is actually one of those notes that is really easily used in a lot of fragrance. I think pretty much as like the aquatic notes, there's the note of coumarin that is really used a lot, even in expensive fragrance. There's a lot of stuff that makes the note of Tonka Bean that will in the end smell the same in different range of price, so that might work with this. But Tonka Bean I actually really enjoy the smell. I think it's better than vanilla, and you'll see on the list vanilla is not there because actually vanilla is one of those notes that when I see it in cheap fragrance make me think that I might not enjoy the fragrance. But Tonka Bean seems to be always good no matter the price point of the fragrance. Now it will depend on what's with that fragrance, what's with that goes around the Tonka Bean, because Tonka Bean is never really the center point. It's like just there to support everything else. But usually when there's Tonka Bean, I'm gonna enjoy the fragrance, at least a little bit. Number 3 is tobacco. And tobacco is actually a note that I really enjoy. It will be in my top 5 notes overall. Cheap fragrance, expensive fragrance, everything. It's a really nice, underused note in my opinion. It smells great. Usually it makes sweeter fragrance though, but still those sweet fragrance with a tobacco note, it darkens the fragrance. It still make it a nice sweet, and usually I would enjoy those fragrance. Now there's no really other explanation that just I really enjoy tobacco, and this is why I would like it. But I think tobacco trumps the fact I don't like sweet fragrance, and it would make it nice and interesting anyway. Number 2 is leather, and leather is actually my favorite note. And why it's number 2, not number 1, actually because I think leather is a note that is really often used as a supportive note. So if there is leather, and again, it's not a cheap fragrance, but you can see it in this fragrance that I reviewed this week, that it's not because there is leather in the fragrance that the fragrance actually smells like leather. But if the fragrance, usually when there's notes of leather, will be stuff around it that kind of support that kind of darker, richer kind of fragrance. Sometimes it won't be even a sweet fragrance, so there's even more chance that I enjoy it. Overall, when I find cheap leather fragrance, I tend to enjoy it mostly because, well, it's my favorite note. And number 1 note that when I see it as one of the dominant note in a fragrance that's cheap, I would assume that I will enjoy it. It's oak moss, and the reason Oak moss is their number one. Is first of all, I really like the smell of oak moss. But the thing with oak moss is that usually a fragrance with strong oak moss is more of an old school fragrance, which is one of those fragrances that I really enjoy. Usually, fragrance with a lot of oak moss is not a sweet fragrance, which is again something that I will enjoy more. Those fragrances with oak moss tend to be more masculine, more strong and powerful, or more elegant. It seems to work more with the type of person that I am. And they're just scents that I think are more appropriate to who I am. And I'm pretty sure if I would do like a top 10 fragrance that I have under like 20, 30, $40, $20, I don't think that a lot of fragrance, but maybe under $40, pretty sure like 75% of the list would have oak moss in them. It's just, I think it's the style, how it was, old school fragrance, in the time where they were using oak moss as a main note. That's really attractive. And usually also those fragrances have a leather and tobacco as a note in the fragrance as a bonus, which are notes that I love. So this is why really oak moss for me, it's the note that will make a fragrance great if it's cheap. Also, I think it's an ingredient that nowadays pure oak moss is not used because of a lot of regulation. So even expensive fragrance, they don't really have the choice than to use synthetic ingredient that will be the same than people that want to make a cheap fragrance. So yeah, I think just make the style and quality of ingredient good even if it's a cheap fragrance. So hope you enjoyed the video. If it's the case, well, like and share if you have some notes that you believe that those notes are gonna make fragrance great even if you don't try it in a cheap fragrance. Write in the comment. So thanks for watching and see you soon.